How much are you spending? How much is it altering your blood work, which at this point in time we don't know yet. Don't worry, stay tuned. 3 to 4 weeks from now, I will have that data and present it to you guys. Let's do the deep dive into 5-amino-1-MQ, the compound itself. The MQ in 5-amino-1-MQ stands for methylquinolinium. So if you want to do research on 5-amino-1-MQ, you have to research by 5-amino-1-methylquinolinium, as well as 5-amino-1-methylquinoline. Sometimes these words are interchanged, but there's not so many scientific studies as of today. Some of the studies were performed on nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitors, NNMT. Now, if you go to PubChem, you'll see that 5-amino-1-methylquinolinium, the synonym for it, is NNMT, nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitors. Keep that in mind when you do your research. You need to search by 3 parameters. Again, I'll list all of the studies down below, as well as the PubChem links and a couple other links which are relevant to the compound. So you can do additional research before you decide to spend an arm and a leg on the compound, hoping to potentiate some additional fat loss in your fat loss journey, alongside whatever fat loss aid you might incorporate as well. So I'll link all of that down below in the description section. There's a lot of research that is very, very interesting and very, very promising. But you have to use some different search parameters to really do a deep dive for yourself if you want to. Now, 5-amino-1-MQ, methylquinolinium, is a nicotinamide N-methyltransferase inhibitor, preventing methylation of nicotinamide in the adipose tissue as well as in the liver. Now, in the liver, there's some conflicting evidence that it might be beneficial or not beneficial. Keep in mind there's a lot of methylation enzymes present in the liver, and 5-amino-1-MQ, as well as some of the other NNMT inhibitors, have been extensively examined to the point the medical community has documented that 5-amino-1-MQ is a very selective NNMT enzyme inhibitor. So it doesn't inhibit any of the other methylation enzymes in adipose tissue or in the liver itself. So in that sense, it's reasonably effective. If you only want to inhibit nicotinamide methylation, then 5-amino-1-MQ is probably the most potent in that sense, and it doesn't have an overlapping negative effect into other methylation enzymes. So with the limited scientific evidence that we have available at our disposal as of now, we can determine that 5-amino-1-methylquinolinium has the highest cell membrane permeability of all the nicotinamide N-methyltransferase inhibitors that are available for research purposes. So that means that 5-amino-1-MQ has the highest efficacy as well as the highest bioavailability of all the NNMT enzyme inhibitors available for research purposes. Now, that has been examined in a very extensive study that is listed down below in the description section. I would highly advise you to read through that study. It's very interesting. So of the animal studies performed so far, it was shown that 5-amino-1-MQ shows promise to reverse diet-induced obesity, reduces the physical size of the fat cell itself, shrinking its overall mass, reducing or inhibiting lipogenesis, preventing the accumulation of fat, perhaps even in a caloric surplus. I found that result to be a little bit dubious. Might not translate well to humans, but if you're eating in a caloric surplus and you're supplementing with 5-amino-1-MQ inhibiting the nicotinamide N-methyltransferase enzymes, it might prevent lipogenesis and the accumulation of fat. Now, where this fat would otherwise go in the bloodstream, potentially, right? That hasn't been investigated yet. 5-amino-1-MQ was shown to improve insulin-resistant states and also increasing fat metabolism within the fat cell itself, potentially resulting in increased lipolysis when lipolytic agents like HGH-Frag, clenbuterol, growth hormone, whatever else are incorporated alongside 5-amino-1-MQ. I'm just speculating here, but that's what I extrapolate from the data that I researched so far. And the animal studies also show that 5-amino-1-MQ increases nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide or NAD+ levels in the adipocytes, as well as S-adenosylmethionine, SAM, levels within the adipocyte. Now, both contribute to cellular energy metabolism and electron exchange. Both are very beneficial to have high levels of at older age because it contributes to anti-aging in that sense. So besides the additional fat loss, it might have some anti-aging properties. Again, it hasn't been fully investigated, but so far the research shows promising results. And the same study showed that other nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitors, as well as 5-amino-1-MQ, were highly selective and don't inhibit or affect other methylation enzymes in the adipocyte or in the liver. So in that sense, when you take 5-amino-1-MQ, again, it's only inhibiting the methylation of nicotinamide and doesn't seem to affect other methylation processes which are beneficial for detoxification. Now, there are several studies that have been performed on nicotinamide and methyltransferase inhibitors as a whole. They don't really pinpoint if that was 5-amino-1-MQ, even though 5-amino-1-MQ is mentioned as a NNMT inhibitor directly on PubChem. We'll get into that a little bit later. So it could potentially be researched again in other studies, but 5-amino-1-MQ was not mentioned in these studies specifically. So we're just going to go by NNMT inhibition. And in these animal studies where NNMT enzymes were inhibited, it was shown that GLUT4 expression increased. So that allows for more glucose uptake into skeletal muscle. Now, what I've noticed, I've been doing my blood glucose levels quite extensively over the last 4 weeks. And I can say that my blood glucose readings have come down with about 5 to 7 points on average. So I'm experiencing bouts of hypoglycemia at certain points. Again, I'm following a ketogenic diet. I'm also incorporating liraglutide, which promotes insulin secretion in the presence of food. So keep that in mind. But on days that I'm not running liraglutide, so that's only on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I still experience hypoglycemia at certain points during the day. Now again, my caloric intake is quite low. On average, my blood glucose came down with 5 to 7 points after incorporating 150 milligrams 5-amino-1-MQ. My body fat levels are progressively getting lower and lower and lower, so that's less potential for gluconeogenesis coming from the glycerol backbone, which is being released from adipose tissue. Again, adipose tissue consists of three triglycerides and a glycerol backbone that locks it all in place. And when lipolysis occurs, these triglycerides and the glycerol backbone end up in the bloodstream. The triglycerides are either metabolized in the liver or burned in skeletal muscle with the use of carnitine being transported into the mitochondria. And the glycerol backbone then gets converted into glucose through gluconeogenesis in the liver. And as you get leaner over time and less body fat is being released, less potential for gluconeogenesis because there's less glycerol present or being released, you might notice periods of hypoglycemia as I'm experiencing occasionally right now. Now, the lowest reading that I was able to take post-workout was about 60 milligrams per deciliter, or my blood glucose levels. That was after a leg day, which is later today, so I'll recheck that again. But it probably falls somewhere around 58 to 60 milligrams per deciliter post-workout, which is not alarmingly low on a ketogenic diet. I've had it lower in the past, running an insulin protocol, pushing the boundaries a little bit, but I won't bore you with the details in this video. So it is of note that my blood glucose levels came down with about 5 to 7 points as the diet is progressing, incorporating 150 milligrams 5-amino-1-MQ per day, right? Spaced out over 3 servings of 50 milligrams. And in another study with non-specific NNMT inhibition, it was shown that it also activates senescent stem cells within skeletal muscle at later age or following injury. So using an NNMT inhibitor like 5-amino-1-MQ could potentially improve recovery following injury to skeletal muscle, perhaps in the form of a hypertrophy response or real muscle injury following an accident, for example, or when a little bit of sarcopenia occurs at a later age. So by activating these stem cells, we could potentially grow additional muscle tissue. It's a little bit presumptuous to say this, Did I experience growth of muscle tissue during the last 4 weeks? Yes. But I'm also on anabolic androgenic steroids. And even though the dosage has not changed, you could safely run the same dosage for like 16 weeks and not plateau. And keep in mind that I'm having a decent amount of muscle memory in place. I used to be way heavier. I used to be way stronger, way more muscular. And I'm simply restoring whatever muscle mass I had in the past with the testosterone, the Primo, and now ACG, as well as 5-amino 1MQ. So keep that in mind. I do look fuller. I do look harder. I did not notice any strength increase. Honestly, I've been plateauing the last 2 weeks, but I think it's because my caloric deficit is getting increasingly bigger as my muscularity increases. So even though I got bigger, I did not get any stronger, and I did not notice any improved contractile force over the last 4 weeks, which was also shown in this study, that it improved contractile force in the animal studies where NNMT was inhibited. Now, the improved contractile force was not studied alongside a caloric deficit or alongside other healing-promoting compounds like testosterone, primobolan, GHK copper, etc., everything else that I'm running right now. So from my anecdotal experience, I would not say that 5-amino 1MQ improves contractile capacity on top of whatever else I'm running. But I do notice that the overall quality of my muscle is better. Now, is that from being on cycle for longer? Is that by incorporating the ACG, or is that from adding in the 5-amino 1MQ? At this point in time, it's hard to pinpoint, and that's why I'm going to continue with another 3 to 4 weeks, at which point in time I should really reach a plateau regarding strength progression, overall accrual of muscle tissue, because I'm getting closer and closer and closer to my caloric-dependent strength and caloric-dependent muscle mass that I should be able to attain during the time that I'm still running 2,500 calories on a ketogenic diet. So again, stay tuned for those results coming in 3 to 4 weeks from now. And a couple other studies I want to mention briefly because they're interesting in the context of NNMT enzyme inhibition. The nicotinamide N-methyl transferase enzymes prevent oxidative stress in the endothelium. And the endothelium is a cell lining surrounding blood vessels, the heart, the lymphatic vessels. So in that context, you don't want to inhibit the nicotinamide N-methyl transferase enzymes too long, because that could potentially result in oxidative stress of the endothelium over time. Now, what's also been known to inhibit oxidative stress in the endothelium is vitamin C, vitamin E, normal and sufficient levels of estradiol. So those three should be in place when running 5-amino 1MQ to mitigate the potential for oxidative stress in the endothelium when you're inhibiting the NNMT enzymes with 5-amino 1MQ. So personally, I'm running 6 grams of vitamin C, about 400 IUs of vitamin E, and my estradiol as of the last blood work was around 30 picograms per milliliter. So that's somewhere to the top of the reference range. So I feel that's sufficient to offset what potential negative effect 5-amino 1MQ might have on NNMT enzyme inhibition in the endothelium, resulting in oxidative stress. So that's something of note to keep in mind, right? When using 5-amino 1MQ, you need to have some protection method in place against oxidative stress in the endothelium. 5-amino 1MQ was shown to inhibit the proliferation and activity of HeLa cells, which are epithelial cervical cancer cells. So there might be some anti-cancer benefits of 5-amino 1MQ. And it was also shown that the overexpression of nicotinamide N-methyl transferase in the liver, so the enzyme itself, plays a role in the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, steatosis, and fibrosis. So in that sense, you might want to inhibit the NNMT enzymes within the liver with oral 5-amino 1MQ or another NNMT enzyme inhibitor to prevent the formation or progression of NAFLD and potentially even reverse it. So could I have used 5-amino 1MQ during the time that I was resolving my non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? Potentially. I wish I had access to it at that time and resolve the condition faster. Well, nowadays it's already resolved. I'm not going to do another fibro scan because that would take another day at the hospital and a doctor's referral. And my previous FibroScan was 100% phenomenal, so I don't think I can improve much from that point. But yeah, maybe at one point there will come out additional data that 5-amino-1-MQ has some overlapping benefits and a positive role on the resolvement of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So maybe in the future there will be a study performed using 5-amino-1-MQ or another NNMT enzyme inhibitor to see if it can reduce the symptoms of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and prevent steatosis or fibrosis from manifesting later down the line, right? When non-alcoholic fatty liver disease progresses and gets worse, it results into steatosis and fibrosis. And luckily I was able to avert that and reverse the condition completely without the use of 5-amino-1-MQ. But maybe at one point in the future, there will be a study showing that it has its benefits in the context of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Let's go over to PubChem, where all the compounds, all the chemicals that are available for research purposes are documented. There's 2 entries on PubChem. One is 5-amino-1-methylquinolinium, and the other one is listed as nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitor, NNMT-I, which is actually also 5-amino-1-methylquinolinium, but it's an iodide salt, 1.89 milligrams 5-amino-1-MQ iodide salt contains 1 milligram 5-amino-1-MQ. And I think this is the one that some of us are going to get in a form of a product, because 5-amino-1-MQ itself is not available on Sigma Aldrich. SigmaAldrich.com is a website of Merck Pharmaceuticals where you can purchase bulk research chemicals or pharmaceutical ingredients. Now again, only if you have the right credentials. If you're a retail purchaser, you can just do a research on SigmaAldrich.com and see which funky chemicals and compounds you might be interested in and check how much they actually cost. And these are all HPLC tested in the highest purity, so you can get a good, accurate representation of the price and see how much the price is being marked up when you find similar compounds or chemicals on the gray area black market. So the 5-amino-1-MQ iodide salt, which is listed on SigmaAldrich.com, containing 52.9% actual 5-amino-1-MQ, being the active pharmaceutical ingredient, costs $21 per 1 gram. So that means if you get 20 tablets of 50 milligrams, in total 1 gram of 5-amino-1-MQ iodide salt, you're paying about $1 per 1 tablet of 5-amino-1-MQ iodide salt dosed at 50 milligrams. Keep in mind that if all the 5-amino-1-MQ out there is actually the iodide salt, you're only getting 52.9% actual 5-amino-1-MQ, and that means a 50 milligram tablet contains about 26 milligrams actual 5-amino-1-MQ. $1 per tablet, $3 per day. I'm paying about double that so far. Some of the online sources that I've seen for 5-amino-1-MQ charge way more than that. I feel that double the price, even triple the price, is a fair markup, considering that you're not going to get into SigmaAldrich.com for any easy reason. So there's always a little bit of a markup involved, right? It needs to be transported, assuming that the sources buy from SigmaAldrich.com. I'm sure there are many other places where you can source 5-amino-1-MQ iodized salts, but that's probably AliExpress or some other website. And well, at least SigmaAldrich.com does the HPLC testing and ensures potency, quality, sterility, and bioavailability, and provides the compound as labeled on the packaging. So at least in that sense, it's a fair price representation of what you're going to get. And getting cheap 5-amino-1-MQ somewhere else might yield something completely different entirely. Keep in mind, this compound is reasonably pricey. There's going to be some markup involved, especially considering that it's a reasonably new compound, has a lot of promise. So far, I would say my results are good. But for long-term use, after this experiment is over and I've done my blood work before and after I made a direct comparison, I'm going to have to wait until a little bit more data becomes publicly known on PubMed, on PubChem, and whatever other websites that documents studies performed on 5-amino-1-MQ or related nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitors. So if you want to purchase this compound somewhere yourself, please research carefully, read a lot of the supplier reviews, and if you find a legitimate supplier that you have faith in, also compare the price to the before and after pictures that I just showed you, because it will set you back $6 to $7 a day, or maybe even more, judging by the prices that I see online of reputable companies that are unfortunately currently out of stock. I would say that you can get similar fat loss with other pharmaceutical interventions for significantly cheaper, right? If you combine GW1516, SR9009, clenbuterol, yohimbine, HGH frag, you're probably spending the same amount on 150 milligrams of 5-amino-1-MQ and get comparable fat loss results. So that all contributes into the selection of pharmaceuticals. How much are you spending? How much is it altering your blood work, which at this point in time we don't know yet. Don't worry, stay tuned. 3 to 4 weeks from now, I will have that data and present it to you guys. And then you have to compare it to the fat loss benefits that you're experiencing from these compounds and outweigh that to potential side effects which might manifest. And as of now, I have not experienced any side effects yet. I hope this was helpful. I know it was a long video. The timestamps are there for a reason. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find the ebooks on my website, vigorsteve.com/shop. Personalized advice always available through consultations. You can find the rates in the consultations section. Follow me on Instagram at VigorSteve. 5-amino, front double bicep for the Vigorous crew. You guys know what to do. 3 to 4 weeks from now, I'll post another video. Link it down below so you guys can see the progress. Fingers crossed my blood work is good. Again, I ran 200 milligrams of 5-amino-1-MQ for 5.5 days during the previous fast. I did my blood work. I did not see any negative signs at that moment, but let's see a couple weeks from now if that still holds up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.